This fit-looking man's name is Sethu. Sethu is an 83-year-old geologist, father of 3 and grandfather of 6. For 30 years, Sethu was a well-known face in the gym. But one certain pandemic not that long ago put an abrupt stop to all that. The problem? Sethu wasn't that 40-year-old healthy god anymore. So his age started to show and it went downhill quickly. Once we were liberated from that nasty virus, Sethu understood that he needed to turn this ship around and do it fast so he could keep working and spend time with his family. And that's where we came in. After 3 months of working together with my 83-year-old friend, he gained 8 pounds of muscle, lost 4 pounds of fat, and even better, gets stronger than he even was before the lockdowns started. So in this video, I want to explain exactly how we did it, give Sethu a shot to tell about his experience, and hopefully inspire you to do the same. Starting with Sethu's life beforehand. Sethu was a professor of geology, and not just that, he is currently a prolific mine finder and runs his own mining investment business. And he was active in the gym for 30 years pre-COVID. Fast forward to COVID, gyms obviously shut down, and along with that, so did Sethu's routine. It was actually quite strange for him to not be exercising after 30 years of being a consistent exerciser. However, even when the lockdowns were over and gyms had reopened, Sethu didn't really go back to the gym. He had negative momentum of about 1.5 to 2 years carrying him forward, and he was kind of at a loss of what to do from there. It's one thing to exercise for maintenance when you have no particular goal, but it's a whole other story when you want to exercise with a deliberate goal in mind. In Sethu's case, that was muscle gain. So although Sethu was a do-it-yourselfer his whole life, now that he was coming back to the gym after a 2.5-year hiatus, he felt the need to get some professional help. That's where I came in. So why did he need a personal trainer even though he was a do-it-yourselfer for 30 years? As he explains in his own video, he needed a program instead of aimlessly wandering around from machine to machine. But he didn't just want a program that he pulled off the internet, he wanted a program that is tailored to his body, his injuries, his age, and so on. Reason 2 is he needed accountability. Beforehand, he never did. But now that he had negative momentum carrying him forward, he needed somebody to help him do this on a regular basis, to stick to a schedule. And finally, he needed safety. He didn't just want to build muscle at the expense of his joints. He wanted to make sure that the exercise didn't damage his joints. He wanted something that's hard on the muscles, but gentle on the joints. Eventually, Sethu came to me, we got started, and here was his exercise program. We divided his program into 2 days. He was doing it 3 days per week, so he was alternating day 1, day 2, day 1. The following week, it was day 2, day 1, day 2. But broadly speaking, here's what it looked like. On day 1, he was doing 3 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions of the following exercises. He was doing lat pull-downs, barbell overhead press, deadlifts, seated rows, incline push-ups, and standing calf raises. He would cycle through these 3 times. So he wouldn't do one exercise, rest, same exercise, rest, same exercise, move on. He'd go through all of them once, rest, go through all of them again, rest, go through all of them a 3rd time. Once he completed that, he did what we call dessert. And that is 2 smaller exercises for fewer sets. One of those exercises was cable lateral raises, which help him give the V shape. And the other exercise was lying leg raises to actually strengthen his abdominals and give him a little bit of definition. That was his day 1 workout. His day 2 workout went like this. We were again using 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps. And here were the exercises this time. 1 arm bent over rows for his biceps and back. Dumbbell overhead press for his shoulders and triceps. Squats for his quadriceps and glutes. Straight arm lat pull downs for his lats. Standing flies for his chest. Seated calf raises for the bottom part of his calf called the soleus. And finally, for dessert, on day 2, what we were doing is dumbbell lateral raises, again for the shoulders to give him that V shape, and 2 cable crunches, again for his abdominals. Now, what's the thought process behind this kind of program? Why do we choose full body workouts as opposed to body part splits? Because you could choose chest and back one day and then don't do that again for a week while you're spending your time on other exercises. We chose full body workouts. Why? Because for muscle growth, it is better to get less stimulation more frequently than more stimulation less frequently. There's a time and a place for body part splits, but that time and place is not what Sethu's situation was. It makes sense to do body part splits if somebody is doing strength training 6 days per week. That wasn't Sethu. He just wanted to do strength training 3 days a week. The other reason behind this is the dose of exercise necessary for muscles to grow. Just like with medications, if you don't give the right dose, if you give a dose that is too low, the medication will not do what it's supposed to do. If you give a dose that's excessive, it's going to damage you in some way. Exercise is the same. If you underdose it, if you don't do enough sets, muscles won't grow. Yes, you'll work, yes, you'll burn calories, but muscles won't grow. If you do too much, you start to risk injury and burnout. So you need to have a sweet spot. The sweet spot for muscle growth for Sethu's level is about 8 to 10 sets per muscle per week. You do less than 8, you'll still grow, just not as much. You do more than 10, you start to risk injury, but also you don't grow more than with 10 sets alone. So if there's no greater growth, there's no greater benefit, there's no reason to do additional sets. The key to muscle growth is coming close to muscular failure. Muscular failure is the point where you can't do a single other repetitions. You don't have to go directly to muscular failure, but you should come pretty close to it within 1 or 2 repetitions. Now, the real secret sauce to Sethu's program wasn't the exercises themselves, it was the progression model. It's not just called resistance training, it's called progressive resistance training. Why progressive? Because every time we try to enhance some part of his program, whether it's to do more repetitions or to add more weight. And here is how his progression went. Although the program called for 8 to 12 repetitions, the target was always 12. If he could hit 12, we would raise the weight next workout. If he couldn't get 12, we would keep the weight for next workout. And if he got less than 8, we would lower the weight. So that is a self-limiting model that adapts to his own body. There's no point in arbitrarily stating that next workout you'll increase it by 5 pounds or by 2 pounds, etc. if the body is not ready for that yet. The body will dictate how fast or how slow it needs to go. You can't just predict it from the future. I personally believe that every single element in an exercise program has to be justified. It's basically exercise on trial. You have to justify the number of exercises, the number of sets, the number of repetitions, the progression model, the order of the exercises, the frequency, the tempo, and the exercise selection. Each element needs to be carefully thought about and justified. After all, there are a million different exercises for the pecs. Why did I select those exercises that I did for Sethu? There are reasons for that I talk about in other videos. Why did I select this order? There's a reason for that. So every element here was justified, as it is in all of our programs. If you're wondering, why do we have Sethu do 2 different, workouts on the same program? And there are 2 reasons for that. One is to have more balanced development of a muscle. Yes, for example, if you have 2 chest exercises, yes, the chest is working in both. However, it's not the entire chest. There are slight preferences towards the upper chest, the middle chest, and the lower chest. So it's to give balanced development of every muscle. The second reason that we had him do 2 different workouts on the same program is to balance out joint stress. If you do the same exercise over and over and over again under a heavy load, eventually there's a possibility you'll get tendonitis or get an injury, etc. By having 2 different exercises for the same muscle, it distributes the muscle load ever so slightly differently, and so the tendons and ligaments and the muscles themselves stay healthy a lot longer. So exercise is just one part of muscle growth. The other part of muscle growth is protein. If you don't eat adequate protein, muscles will get stronger, but not bigger. Sethu wanted greater muscle size. Not exactly to be like a professional bodybuilder, but just bigger than what they were right now. And 8 pounds of muscle is what he was very, very satisfied with. And so first, we had to figure out what are his protein requirements. We figured them out, we plugged in the calculations, we figured out what his requirements were, and then we asked him to do a dietary recall, that is, track everything he's eating for 4 days. We calculated what he needed versus what he was getting and learned that what he was getting is only about 50% of what he needed. No wonder his muscles were shrinking. So we had to figure out ways that are palatable to him to get his protein levels up. Of course, we had to do it in a way that was palatable to him. In other words, if we recommended something that he wasn't already eating, it would be difficult. It's not in his routine. The reason most diets fail isn't because they're not sound nutritionally, it's usually just because they're so different logistically than what you're used to. And so if you make it logistically similar or virtually identical, it's much easier to stick to it long term. So bottom line, what did we recommend to Sethu? Sethu was already eating oatmeal for breakfast. It was very simple to tell him to add a scoop of protein powder to his oatmeal. Oatmeal has very little protein, 5 to 10 grams for the entire meal. Now, his requirements were over 100 grams, so 5 or 10 grams doesn't get him that very far. But 1 scoop of protein powder adds 30 grams. And so that was an easy way to get up there. And yet, there are protein powders with many flavors. Yes, there's chocolate, vanilla, banana, strawberry, but there's also unflavored. So he could get whatever flavor he wanted, even if he didn't want to change the taste of his oatmeal. Before he started working with us, for lunch he was typically having beans and lentils with something. I recommended making that something sardines since he already liked sardines. Sardines add an additional 30 grams of protein and omega-3 is a bonus. Now, are beans and lentils good sources of protein? Good, yes. Great, no. Why? Because a great source of protein contains more than 30 grams per serving. Beans and lentils contain between 12 and 16 grams per serving. So they are okay, they're good, but they're not great. Sardines are great. Would I have recommended sardines to Sethu if he didn't like them? No. But because he liked them, he would have good compliance to them. Would I have recommended something else to somebody who didn't like sardines? Absolutely. Next, for dinner, Sethu was already eating either chicken or pork. I had him keep doing that, but he was also eating rice, which as a diabetic wasn't great. So I recommended replacing rice with lentils, which he already liked. Lentils have both more protein and more fiber than rice. That's a win-win both for his diabetes as well as for his protein intake. Lastly, everything we do is a combination of exercise, nutrition, supplementation. The one supplement we added to Sethu's routine was creatine. First of all, what is creatine? Our kidneys make creatine already. It is a substance that is used as a fuel source for muscles, but it's helpful to get additional creatine if you don't eat a lot of red meat. So what are the benefits of creatine? One is the muscles store more water, giving them a fuller appearance. Two, the benefit of creatine is that it speeds up recovery between sets. So maybe instead of resting 2 minutes between sets, he could rest 1.5 minutes between sets. By saving 30 seconds between exercises in an entire 1 hour workout, he could do an extra 1 or 2 sets. Although Sethu never stated that this was his goal, creatine is actually very good for cognition. Everything has a risk and a reward. The reward of creatine is what I just stated previously. The risk is so minimal. We're looking for the most tried, tested, true, and safe supplements. Creatine fits the bill. It's one of the best studied, oldest supplements out there, been used since the 1960s. So, theory is nice, but what were Sethu's bottom line results? One, he gained 8 pounds of muscle. He also lost 4 pounds of fat, giving him a net weight gain of 4 pounds. His strength in the deadlift nearly tripled. When he started deadlifting, he was doing about 33.5 pounds. By the end of this program, he was deadlifting 95 pounds, extremely impressive for a guy who's 83 years old. His upper body strength improved by 33%. His lat pull downs went from 60 pounds up to 80 pounds. His chest circumference increased by 3 centimeters, which means he grew his pec muscles. And his waist circumference decreased by 2 centimeters. What creates that V shape is the difference between the chest circumference and the waist circumference. And his difference grew by 5 centimeters. So he got more of a V shape as he got older. Now, it wasn't all sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. It wasn't just a straight line from where he was to where he is now. There were some obstacles along the way, and that's just real life. So let's address his obstacles. One obvious obstacle he had was knee pain. That just came from arthritis, so we had to figure out how can we make something that's challenging to the muscles, but gentle on the joints that doesn't aggravate and possibly even improves his knee pain. We noticed that it's not that his knee didn't hurt across all quad exercises, it only hurt in squats. So we had to find a different exercise that still worked the quads, but wasn't squats. We did knee extensions. Knee extensions did not bother his knee, squats did bother his knee, so we just switched to that. The other challenge is scheduling. Sethu is a busy guy. Despite being 83 years old, he is not retired. He is running a business, he has a family, and takes yoga classes, meditation, and more. Despite that, he was still able to fit in his strength training 3 times per week because it was a priority for him. In addition to gaining all of this fitness, this muscle, losing body fat, and so on, how is his life different now? For one thing, he sleeps better. He's faster to fall asleep and he's more rested when he wakes up. Another benefit he has is that he has more energy. Now, he was already running a mining business. It's pretty active with his grandkids and has lots to do. So he needs all the energy he can get. Lastly, he is a lot stronger. Life is easier when you're stronger. You can move furniture easier, you can move groceries easier, and so on. Lastly, his daughter lives pretty far away, so she hadn't seen him in a few months. When she saw him 3 months later, she told him he doesn't look frail anymore. Great to hear when you're 83 years old. Now, if you want results like Sethu, we have a special Google form in the description below. If you click on that form, it's going to take you to that Google sheet where you can fill out the application form. And all it is it doesn't obligate you to anything. It just lets us schedule a quick 10 to 15 minute Zoom chat with you, where all we're going to do is we're going to talk about your situation and can we help you get there. There's no pressure, there's no sales pitch, there's no obligation, just a quick conversation.